Hey there, this is Simon Carlos from Game Discover Co. You're listening to the Scene World podcast.
So, we have a little prize giving for you. We are giving away one copy of David Pleasance's new book, Commodore the Inside Story, the German edition. So,
send an email to remute@sceneworld.org and you will shuffle and select somebody, I guess.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, well, now let's continue with the news section. With
All right.
AJ and me.
Hey all, it's the Scene World podcast. In a minute, we are talking with. Well, actually, no, I'm AJ. That's Jurg. We messed up that intro, but that's okay.
Never mind.
Yeah, got a quick news section. I don't have anything to. I don't have any news because I just couldn't find any. But Jurg found some, so.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's see how quick it will be. Well, first of all, there's an article that's referring to a blog post from Ron Gilbert. He being pissed in his blog post about fans being pissed of Monkey Island, the new one coming this year from him, having a new graphic style they don't concur with. His blog post basically says, I'm not doing the game to make you a favor. I'm doing the game I wanted, the way I want it to be.
Yeah, I thought that the Monkey Island series really, like the graphic style, really was the best in Monkey Island 3, because it was like a cartoon, almost like the graphic style hit like the perfect thing. And then they went 3D.
Monkey Island 3 is very controversial. Some people hate the graphic style. I like the modern comic.
Yeah, so do I.
graphics.
So do I. Yes. But then they went and then they went 3D like everything else did.
Yeah, with the Telltale.
Well, no, not even before that. Monkey Island 4 was, on the PlayStation was 3D.
That is Monkey Island 4 from Telltale.
No, it's not. Monkey Island 4 Escape from Monkey Island is a different game.
Okay. Was there 5? I thought there were 4 Monkey Islands.
There were. Actually, well, I don't know how many there were because the Tales of Monkey Island was Telltale games, and
but this Telltale games had 5 seasons.
Right. Yeah.
But it was still one game.
Okay.
So
yeah, and then there were 3, and not to.
No, there were 4. Yeah. I'm telling you, there were 4.
No, look up Monkey Island 4, Escape from Monkey Island. It was done. He wasn't involved in it. Ron Gilbert was not involved in the game. But
okay, here we go. Monkey Island 1, Monkey Island 2, The Curse of Monkey Island 3. Okay. Escape from Monkey Island, okay, 4. Okay. And then, okay, you're right. And then Return to Monkey Island was the 5th. Okay, so there were 5. So Return to Monkey Island is the 6th then.
Yes. And not to, like I said, not to shit on the 3rd Monkey or the 4th Monkey Island, because I didn't like the graphics because they were the 3D. I think it was PlayStation 2 or something. It wasn't the best. It was, everybody was doing 3D. Everyone, that's just the way all games were going. But it kind of didn't follow the graphic style that had been established in the first 3 games. Well,
okay, so that Escape from Monkey Island was
great soundtrack, though. Amazing soundtrack, amazing voice acting, and it is a good game. It is a fun game. I played it, and it was enjoyable. It's just
it is from LucasArts.
Yes, it is.
So the Telltale one was the 5th one.
Yes. I have not played the Telltale Games version yet.
I'm actually playing Tales of Monkey Island, so the 4th one now, and then so I'm catching up with the 4th and 5th.
Yeah. I haven't played that yet. I want to because I love Monkey Island, but I never got around to it. But maybe I can now.
Well, I got the collection.
Yeah. They
We
still sell.
reported about that
Did
before.
Telltale Games? Did they die? Did they go under?
They did go under and were recreated
Oh, okay.
a few years later.
So you can still get the game.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah,
except Guardians of the Galaxy and Minecraft Story Mode.
Okay,
Those two games returned to their original copyright holder, which in case of the Guardians of the Galaxy was Marvel, obviously, and Minecraft Story returned to Microsoft, and they both decided to not republish them.
Yeah.
After Telltale Games died. Those two games are officially delisted everywhere, so pretty hard to get.
Okay, well,
and now you would say, okay, get a physical release. Yeah, but on the media, when you get a physical release, there's only the first episode of the first season.
Yeah, right.
And the same when you get season 2, it's just the first episode of the season 2. And all the other seasons are download content.
Yes, right.
But since all the servers are down,
yeah, you can't do anything.
The only way getting it is Steam, because Valve never removes the downloads from the server. But while you can get it for the first season, you can't get any code for the second season anymore. Well, you only have the gray, not so legal options to play these two games. So Tales of the Monkey Island, actually, so the Telltale game also is part of the collection that were released in limited run last year. And I made a blog post about it, and we mentioned it in our news section some episodes before. So yes, that's and you can get the whole Monkey Island collection on Steam officially.
Right.
So
cool. Awesome.
That's good. So when it returns to Disney, it returned to Disney, they decided to republish it.
Right. Good
so
on them.
Damn you,
good
Microsoft and Marvel, make the other Telltale games available again too, please.
Yeah. And good on you, Disney, for republishing them.
Which is nice, because we had an interview with Ron Gilbert, and he said he totally thinks that Disney will not do anything with any of those licenses anymore.
Yeah, right.
So it's a surprise. It was a surprise for Ron Gilbert himself that Disney decided, like, hey, we will go into games again. And as we mentioned a few podcast episodes, news sections before, Disney actually decided to offer a collection on Steam where you can get all the past Disney games before they took over Lucasfilm Games, LucasArts. So now you can get all the games from 2010, 2011 that Disney published.
Yeah.
So that means they are totally into the game industry again, which is nice.
Awesome.
Because as we know, when they took over Lucasfilm, they totally went into movies only and totally stopped their video game business.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they resume that. Well, so going away from Monkey Island, other news I have is that on the May 4th, because
May the
4th, you know, it's
Star Wars Day.
Star Wars Day, exactly. Empire Strikes Back has been released. And despite an article from Gaming Retro says it's actually conversion of the Atari 2600 game, there was actually a preview on the Commodore 64 from 87 of the game, a playable that they never completed. So we will link to that as well, because you can still download it from GameBase. But anyway, this new version is wonderful. I can only suggest you to download it for free. It's really worth it.
Cool.
Other news also, Piepacker, we had them as an interview. They renamed themselves now. They are called Jam.
I liked Piepacker better. Jam, just like, Jam. Jam. My first MP3 player was a Jam P3.
Yeah, well, Piepacker has nothing to do with gaming, and Jam
I know.
Like
I'm just
a jam, a nice time. So anyway, under jam.gg, you can now find Piepacker.
I liked Piepacker better still. It was unique and made you go, what the hell? Made you go, what the hell is this? And then you look at it, and then you find out Jam is just going to be like, I'm not even going to think twice. I'm going to see Jam. I'm going to be like, it's either food or it's some nonsense that I don't care about.
Could also be traffic jam.
Yeah, right. I disagree with their decision to change that, but whatever.
Well, you have. I guess you have to write him and remind him. Anyway, there are new photos of the Unithor joystick.
Okay.
That we will have an episode about soon.
Yes.
On Facebook. So if you go to Unithor at facebook.com, you get to their page and the new photos.
Awesome.
Yeah, well,
I do have one little piece of news actually, and it's not. I don't know where to link to it or anything. I'll figure that out down the road. But I wanted to show you that someone posted that Trends Electronic GmbH is putting together and sending out the first batch of Mega 65s.
Nice.
So you can place orders and you'll be in for the second batch, because I guess the first is all sold out, and
nice.
it ultimately comes out to about 700 something euros.
Yeah, GmbH means just limited.
Yeah, but it's just it's still pretty expensive.
You didn't listen to me.
Yeah.
GmbH is not part of the company name. It just means limited.
Yeah. But either way, it's a they're actively shipping them out. It's 700 something euros, which is a bit expensive for it. Mega 65 team, I would still appreciate a free demo version if you'd like me to review it. I'm down with that. Contact us and I'll get you my address. Retro Games Limited they send me a C64 Mini. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but that's not 700 euros.
No, but But we're Scene World, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, the unfortunately also some sad news. The co-founder of Ocean Software, David Ward, has died at age 75. He co-founded Ocean Software in 1983. Yeah.
Far too young. 70s or not. Yeah. No.
75?
Yeah. 75 in this day and age is, I feel like is still a little bit young. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. So 75 it ain't looking that old anymore.
Yeah, well, in the last 2 years, a lot of people died in 70 and up because of the pandemic, mainly.
And up, yes. Yeah. To me, like 80s is when you should be going. If you're gonna go 80s and 90s, I 70s, that's a little early still. But that's probably just me wanting to live into my 80s and 90s.
Yeah, well, and last but not least, Hans Eppisch is no longer the European president of Intellivision.
Oh, poor Intellivision.
Yeah.
So
Well,
do you think the Amico's coming out?
did I pre-order it?
I don't believe you did.
I didn't.
Yeah, it's
Let's me be honest. When we had our last panel in the last Gamescom, right?
mhm.
And Tommy Tellerico so told me he's no longer targeting retro,
Mhm.
and Earthworm Jim is no longer the killer app for the console. I was like, okay, that's very difficult to sell it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because every console so far that has been released, including the Game Boy, had a killer app.
Mhm.
The Atari VCS had Pong. The Game Boy had Tetris.
Yeah.
In some regions it was Super Mario Land instead, right?
Mhm.
Here in Germany, the NES had the triple cartridge. So Nintendo World Cup Soccer, Tetris, and Super Mario Bros. USA.
We had Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers, and Duck Hunt.
Exactly, or the robot.
Yes, that's the one I had.
That was a second option.
Yeah.
And I believe the
Gyromite.
Exactly. So and even the PlayStation, I remember everybody was after Destruction Derby and stuff, and so as a console you need a killer app, and clearly for the Intellivision it was Earthworm Jim.
I get the feeling from talking to these guys that their heart was in the right place. They really wanted to make this thing work, and it's tough to bring something to market like that. It's tough to bring a new console that is flooded to a market that's flooded with consoles. And you've got your PlayStation, Xbox. That's pretty much like those are your main consoles. How do you break that? How do you make something that's gonna like break that ecosystem and
I said,
be successful? It's
my
difficult.
answer is having an exclusive title. That's a killer app,
Yes. Yeah.
and that's working for all the new consoles. Not like the Evercade suddenly appeared, and hey, it was a success,
Yeah.
And now I think it's called a Playmate, the new console. That so every console so far had a reason why, as a customer, you would want it. So in the first panel, when we first had the interview with Tommy Tellerico, he told us, and we got this trailer, that Earthworm Jim will be a launching title. So, and this way we will target the retro fans. And to tell a magazine like Scene World in a second panel coming the year after, we no longer target.
Yeah, we changed our mind on that. Sorry, guys.
And we no longer think as Earthworm Jim being our launching title. I was like, what?
You're not in camera. If you want to just move over a little bit, there you go.
Okay. It's weird because in my preview I'm still on camera.
Oh, okay. Well, now you are, but.
So anyway, so.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that is.
That was my feeling.
That's problematic. Yeah.
I don't know what led them to change their minds, but it went downhill from this point on. It's like Nintendo making a last second or Sega making a last second decision saying Sonic is no longer our killer app, no longer our mascot,
Yeah.
It's the same with Amico saying,
Right.
"No, Earthworm Jim, we are not interested in that
Yeah.
anymore." I'm like,
Right.
what?
Right. Yeah.
Telling you that, and this is, and the person who's telling you this is the composer of the music of Earthworm Jim.
Mm-hmm.
The person who should know the value of the game series Earthworm Jim the best.
Right. Exactly.
So
exactly.
I don't know what happened there. I don't know if he had problems and they revoked the license given to Amico. I have no idea. But from that point it went downhill because I mean, hey, target the casual gamer by all means. But then you have 2 target groups. That's better than one.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So this is my feeling about it. Yeah. Anyway.
We'll see.
So good luck to Tommy and Hans to their new endeavors.
Yeah.
As Tommy already announced, kind of, he's going back classically video games live concerts. That's his thing now. But I think honestly, this Amico disaster will be a dark spot.
Oh, absolutely.
In the biography of
that's what
Hans Ippisch and Tommy Tillerico.
Yeah, they'll be remembered for that. That'll be amongst everything else that they've done. That's going to be like one of the big things that people remember them for, and it's a shame because they've done a lot more. That's a lot cooler than failing to bring a console to market.
Well, that's it. Yeah. We will see. Perhaps Phil Adams can find the new CEO, can find an angel investor, but who would want an angel investor?
Hey, maybe they'll pull it off. Who knows? We can only speculate. We're just spectators like everybody else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, so that would be all my news. So nice.
And that's that.
That's that. All right. Okay, started. Nice. So today we have another podcast interview, and we are welcoming back David Pleasance. Hello, David.
Hi, David.
Hello, gentlemen. Lovely to be here, and hello to the audience, wherever you are in the world.
And with us today is Dennis, our PR man, who is helping me with moderating this. So thanks for being with me. Right, and today we actually want to talk about something German, and that is a translation of your recent book into German. So perhaps let's start about that. I mean, most people, David, know you for being, for having been the marketing director of Commodore, and also in the later days being the CEO of Commodore UK. But recently you did some books and also a Blu-ray. And so let's talk about, why do you translate your book into German, and what is that all about?
Okay, yes, of course. I think the best thing I can do to start with is to just give a quick overview of my career at Commodore.
Sure.
Because it's a lot of people probably don't really understand. I was with Commodore 12 and a half years. And I think, to be honest with you, had they not gone bankrupt, I'd probably still be there. It was the most incredible company to work for, even though there were a lot of things that went wrong. Anyway, my history with Commodore is really quite interesting, because I've been living in Australia, and I've been doing sales and marketing into the retail market for several years. My most recent position in Australia was I was sales manager for Pioneer Electronics, the car and home stereo people. Anyway, when we decided to returned back to the UK because we had our first child by then. My son Marcel was about a year and a half old, and we decided to come back to the UK for him more than anything else. And we had a couple of weeks holiday on our way back, and then I spent the next 7 weeks traveling the world because I wanted to see what was going to be the next big thing, yeah. And it was pretty obvious in my 7 weeks of traveling, I went all over the world, that clearly that the computer was going to be, you know, the next thing, and probably home computing. But this is in 1983, okay? So when I got back to the UK, remember there's no internet at this stage. So all the jobs that were available were advertised in the newspapers. In the UK, it's always Thursdays, and Sunday papers had all the jobs in. So I started scouring the newspapers for anything with the word computing in it, bearing in mind that I knew nothing whatsoever about computing. But I thought, if I don't put myself out there, then I won't get an opportunity. So anyway, I remember finding this particular job, and it was I think it was computer services of some sort. And it was an agency, a recruitment agency in London. And I got on the phone to them, and it took me about 40 minutes to even get them to give me an interview, because I clearly wasn't really qualified. But I'm a good salesman. So anyway, I remember very clearly arriving at this building. And as I arrived there was a lady living, and I remember holding the door open for her. It's just so one of those things that I just remembered. So I went in and I sat down straight away with this recruitment agent, and he gave me an interview for this job. This was not Commodore, this was something completely different. And when we'd finished the interview, he said, "Mr. Pleasance," he said, "there's no doubt in my mind that you could do this job standing on your head, but I'm not going to put you forward for it." I said, "Oh, thanks a lot. That's wonderful." He said, "No, hear me out." He said, "The problem is," he said, "I've been a recruitment agent for," I think he said, about 25 years. He said, "You have the very best CV of retail, selling into retail that I've ever seen." And he said, "As a professional recruitment agent, it would be wrong of me, remiss of me, if I don't utilize your skills." He said, so I got up to leave. He said, "No, sit down." He said, "Look, this is incredible." He said, "But did you see a lady leaving?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, she has just given me a brief for a job, for a position." He said, "Because you arrived at the same time she left," he said, "I haven't even had time to write it up. But," he said, "I think it'd be perfect for you." And that was a job with Commodore.
Ah.
Never been advertised.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 days later, I find myself having an interview with her, Brown's Hotel in London. I can see it in my mind so clearly. And because apparently when she went there, they didn't know whether they needed to get somebody who was a computer specialist who knew nothing about retail, or a retail specialist that knew nothing about computers. Because what the job was, it was to sell pets, Commodore pets, into the retail market. That was what the job specifically was. And because of my background in selling into retail for many, many years, I really was perfect for the job. There's no question about that. So I then find myself in front of the then managing director, Howard Stanworth, his name was at that stage, when Commodore was in Ajax Avenue in Slough. So anyway, I got appointed to the job. Now, the crazy thing is, and this is amazing, the guy this was my job was sales in the business division, because the pets were business products. Remember, we had the VIC-20, and we'd just released the 64 about 7 or 8 months before. And that was a consumer division. It used to be called the Toy Boys for some reason. Anyway, cut a long story short, on my very first day, there was a new person in charge of the business systems division, a guy called Mike Tate. And I walked into his office on my first day, and he hadn't got anything for me to do. He hadn't prepared anything. And we sat there, and I felt like really uncomfortable, And anyway, his secretary came in, because obviously he'd only just started himself. Secretary came in and she said, "Mike," she said, I'm just going to the supermarket to stock up with tea and coffee. Do you have a particular tea that you like? And do you know what he did? Right in front of me, I'll never forget this. He picked up the phone, he rang his wife, and he says, "Hello, darling." He says, "What tea do I like?" In front of me. Can you believe that?
Wow.
It's like, it's incredible when you think about it. Anyway, cut a long story short, the next part of the same day, which is a really interesting story, because it got nothing for me to do, I walked around and I found a guy called John Baxter, who at that time was Commodore's marketing manager. So I went up to John, I introduced myself. I said, "Look, I've just joined the company today. Have you got anything for me to do?" And he said, "Actually, yeah." He said, "There's a new retail store just opened up, a big retail store just opened up on the North Circular Road in London." And he said, "I've been meaning to go and have a check it out." He said, "But I haven't had the time." He said, "Will you go over there, check them out, come back and give me a report?" I said, "Fabulous, just what I want." So I jumped in the car, drove over and found this place. And as I walked in the place, it's absolutely true. The guy said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Oh, my name's David Pleasance and I'm from Commodore." "Commodore, come in." And they gave me a glass of champagne. And I said, "I'm going to love this job. This is amazing, you know." And it turned out it was their open day. They'd sent Commodore invitations, but of course Commodore had never even answered them, typical of Commodore. Commodore had not even responded, so they thought I was responding to that. Just a complete fluke, really. Anyway, again, to a very long story short, I had to really design my own plan as to how I was going to launch pets into the retail market. And because I've been in Australia for quite a while, I was a bit out of touch with, you know, the major retailers in the UK. I decided I'd go around and visit lots of them and just sort of work out who would be the best person to start this project with. And so I went to the Dixons and Comets and Currys and all these people around the place. And it appeared to me that there was one company that they're not around anymore, sadly. There's one company called Lasky's. And Lasky's had 54 shops all over the UK. And in 26 of them, they had a store within a store concept, which was called Micropoint. And they were selling business products. They weren't selling computers per se, because we hadn't really got computers. It's before PCs. But they were selling, I think, copiers and printers and storage devices and software and stuff like that. So I went to their head office, spoke to their managing director and said, "Look, I'm doing some research with Commodore. I'd like to interview your Micropoint store managers. Can I have your permission?" So he gave me a letter which gave me the authority to meet them. And of course, all I was planning to do was to interview them all and pre-sell them into the concept of taking in Commodore pets. Anyway, I had visited 23 of the 26 stores. I was actually in the 24th store, which I can't remember where it was, somewhere up north. I was actually in the 24th store, and I've got 2 stores left to do before I was going to go back and do my whole presentation. And of course, in those days, no mobile phones. So I took a call. There was a call came in for me in the shop. Luckily, I was where I was supposed to be. And it was the same lady, Eileen Stroud, and it was, who recruited me. And she said, "David, do you remember in our interview, I told you that, you know, there's a lot of exciting things that are happening within Commodore at the moment." She said, and I've got to tell you, your star's just come in. I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Our Commodore 64 is going so crazy. We need somebody to look after all our national accounts, reporting to the sales manager for consumer products, and you're it. So come back to Slough, and from now on, you're national accounts manager for the consumer division." So I ended up in absolutely the prime position, if you like, selling Commodore products that one could ever imagine, and it all came about by accident, which is really, really quite amazing. Anyway, so just to then continue, I did very well in my role as National Accounts Manager, and ultimately I survived several managing directors that came and went for different reasons.
Before we cut in there, one thing though, you mentioned you started Commodore at 83, right?
Yes.
The PET was developed and released in 77. That means the pet that you had to sell at the start already has been in the market for 6 years.
Yeah, but they
That's
weren't.
interesting.
But they weren't selling in retail shops.
Right.
They were selling. It's a business product. They were selling to businesses, directly to business, and I mean, obviously, I mean, as a matter of interest, anyway, one of the reasons why I was given the opportunity to join the consumer division was because they'd realised, the corporation had realised, in spite of recruiting me specifically for the job, they'd realised that they were not going to have enough pet product to open a new market with it. So I was employed to be redundant pretty much immediately, which actually is one of the reasons why I knew very quickly that Commodore wasn't ever going to last, because they clearly had no business plan of any kind, which I can come back onto later. But anyway, so what happened is that after I took over as national accounts manager, and I started to be given some room to do more marketing initiatives, and I started all of the 64 bundles. We had many. We ended up doing 2 bundles a year with the 64 different concepts. For example, one of them was called the Light Fantastic Pack, and we had in a light gun, and that was the first of its kind in the pack. Then I did this thing called the Connoisseur Collection, and we had in it, as far as I'm aware, the world's first mouse. We had a Japanese product called Neos Mouse and Cheese. It was an art package. And so the bottom line is that we were really selling 64s, extremely well in big volumes. Then came the Amiga 500, which of course came into my side of the business, and that's when I came up with the concept of the Batman pack, which absolutely took off and raised the Amiga 500's profile hugely. Anyway, the bottom line is that in 1989, I was made sales and marketing director of the UK as a direct result of all of the work with the 64s and the 500 pack. Now, at that moment in time, my managing director was a guy called Steve Franklin, who was a young guy. And of course, he was basking in the glory of all the work that I'd done. Mind you, he and I worked very closely together. He gave me the opportunity to do it. But I just knew that there's no way I could take over from him, because he was, doing such a good job when he was a young guy. So the opportunity arose. There was a vacancy for the general manager of Commodore Electronics Limited, which was the holding company for the whole group of Commodore businesses. And they were based in Basel, in Switzerland, in a particular canton called Aisch. And I applied for and got that job. So I became a general manager, and I was responsible for 35 countries. Countries where Commodore did not have an operating office. And that, for me, was the most perfect job in the world, because I'm a hunter. I'm a real hunter. I like to start with nothing and get out there and make business happen. That's how I am. I'm not a farmer like some people who are really good farmers that can keep a business going. Anyway, so I was there 2 years. And then I was given a wish that I'd had for a long time. I wanted to get into the US sales office, because they were doing such a lousy job. In fact, we used to call Commodore Inc. Sales prevention officers, because they were so bad,
It's interesting. I mean, I made a couple of interviews with Dave Haney.
Yes.
And he to support you, he said he never saw good advertisement in his own country. He said so he totally backs you up in the statement that selling in USA was horrible.
Yeah, it was, and there's good reasons for it. I mean, the first reason was, and I think it's good that the audience understand this, is that when the 64 was released, it was doing very well in the US, and Commodore opened up lots and lots of dealers, small dealers, big dealers, and so on and so forth, and they were doing quite well. And then what happened was that one of their big major accounts, Kmart, decided that they were going to use the Commodore 64 as a lost leader line. And what that means is that they were buying it for $98 and selling it for $99. And the concept of that was that people would come in and buy their 64 from them, and at the same time they would sell them the C2N, they'd sell them hard drives and software and joysticks and all of that, all at full margin. Anyway, because the moment you do that, if you let them continue doing that, everybody else will say, I'm not going to stock it anymore. I can't make any money out of it. I'm paying $98 for it. I've got to sell it for $140, $150. Otherwise, I'm losing money. So instead of Commodore, although of course it's illegal, instead of Commodore sorting Kmart out, and there are ways to do that, which I can come back on to shortly, instead of them stopping them from selling it for $99, they just said, oh, look, we're selling as many as we can get through Kmart, so why bother? So they lost all of their distribution other than Kmart.
Wow.
Right, which is a complete ridiculous thing to do. What you do, just out of interest, I said it's illegal, you're not supposed to do it, they call it price maintenance. You just go to the head of the buyer at Kmart and you say, look, I'm really sorry, I've run out of stock. I haven't got enough stock. And then you just dry them up so they can't keep doing what you're doing. And then you maintain your distribution channels everywhere else. Right? I had the same thing in the UK with a company called Toys R Us, which were, I think that they've gone bust now, but they were a international company. And the guy who was the head of Toys R Us in the UK, he used to discount my product. I went to see him and I told him that I'm really sorry, I've run out of stock. And then he gave me his absolute personal word that they wouldn't discount it again. So I let him have some more, and then he did discount it again. So I just shut him off completely. But what I'm saying to you, that is why Commodore, for a long time, and especially when they had the 500 coming, they had no market for it because they're pissed off. Because of course, what happened to Kmart is that along comes Sega saying, you know that product you're selling for $99 and not making any money. Well, how about you sell ours and you're making money because ours is $99 retail. So of course they dropped Commodore like a ton of bricks, you know. Anyway, that was the first reason why the US company wasn't doing well. And then when I went there in January of 1990, and the first thing I did, and this is interesting, the first thing I did when I walked into Westchester was to go and see all the engineers, because I've always believed that without engineers, we don't have a business. So I went to see them and get this. Imagine my surprise. There were seven Amiga engineers. And in the same building, there were 40 PC engineers. 40 of them. This is in 1990. Sorry, 1992, this was when nobody made their own PCs in 92. They were coming out of the Far East in huge numbers, really, really cheap. And all you do is you just get something with your badge on it, and you design the front of the bezel of the things that look, it's your product. You know why you do it yourself. And it turns out that Mediali had just hired a new head of engineering, a guy called Bill Sidness, and he had come from IBM, and his claim to fame was that he was responsible for the IBM PC Junior, which is considered the biggest flop in computing history.
Oh,
ever.
Yes, yes, I know that. Oh.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, what had happened was that when he joined Commodore, he gave jobs to 40 of his mates at Commodore. Now, can you imagine that, how ridiculous that is? It's completely ridiculous. Anyway, then... So I have a meeting with all my team. I've got a team. I had 4 salespeople and 3 marketing people at my team. Really, really good people. I sat them down for the very first time ever and I said, right, all I want from you people is the truth. No bullshit, no, lies. Don't make up things that you think I want to hear. I want to know the truth. What's going on? And I said, okay. I said, you guys are not selling anything. Why aren't you selling anything? Well, David, they said, we're not allowed to. I said, what do you mean you're not allowed to? We're not allowed to. We've been told we can't sell anything to any of our customers. Why? We don't know. I said, well, don't you think you should have asked? Well, either way, they said, we don't know, but we're not allowed to sell anything. I said, okay, I need to get to the bottom of this. So I said to my guy, I said, right, Steve Salas was one of the guys said, Steve, I'm going to work with you next week. I want you to make some appointments. I'm going to go and see the customers. We get to the bottom of this. And then the other guy, the week after, you the week after. My very first appointment in the US was Sears. Remember it like it was yesterday, the 14th floor of their Chicago building. I'm sat around a boardroom with Steve, my guy, and there was about 12 people from Sears all around this boardroom table. So I introduced myself, told them about my background, and and I said, look, I'm here to try to get to end up doing some business with you guys, because we should be doing a lot of business, and for some reason we're not. And I said, all I ask of you, gentlemen, is just please, would you be honest with me? Yeah, okay. And I said, can I start by saying the reason was that nobody had paid their bills. That's why our guys weren't allowed. But they hadn't been told. Nobody had paid their bills. So I said, would you mind telling me why you're not paying your bill? And they said, it's obvious, Mr. Pleasance. We're just waiting for you to take all our stock back. And I said, oh, yeah. I said, that's interesting. I said, I've been with Commodore, I think it was 8 or 9 years then. I said, I've never known Commodore to be a lending library. And they said,
oh, wow.
Right?
So to put this into perspective, so there had been agreement, whatever isn't sold, Commodore has to take back or something.
Well, yes, what they did is they pushed a piece of paper across the boardroom table to me. And it was a piece of paper, and it was signed by Jim Dion, who was the president of Commodore Inc., the sales division, not the worldwide company, that's Mediali. This is Jim Dion. And it was signed by him, and it was sale or return agreement.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
Which we never did. But guess what product it was?
The Commodore 64?
No.
Or the Amiga?
No.
No.
It was the CD-TV.
Oh.
Now, can you imagine a company like Sears selling the CD-TV? I mean, our professional dealers had trouble selling it because it was too advanced. It was very complicated to use. There's no way on God's earth that those big retail groups like Sears and Best Buy and all these people, they couldn't sell it. And so what had happened is that Jim Dion had stitched them all up with this product on a sale or return agreement. He hadn't told Mediali he'd sold it on sale or return. All he'd done is at the end of that quarter, he put his claim in for his commission and his bonus and got paid when we hadn't been paid for the goods. So that had stopped us point blank from selling anything into the US market. Now, that absolutely caught me out because I was not prepared for that. We didn't do sale or return. I never knew anybody who did sale or return because that's not a sale under anybody's auspices. So I'm caught out for a little bit. And then I had to think really quickly on my feet and I said, look, guys, I said, the truth of the matter is you should never, ever have been sold that. No way on God's earth should you have been sold that product because it's very difficult to sell. And with respect to your staff are not capable of selling that product. It was destined to fail. So I said, what you should be selling the Amiga 500 because in Europe we're selling it hand over fist. Everywhere's doing really, really well with it. It's the perfect product for you. So I said, anyway, I gave you my word I would honour and I will honour. I will take back that stock. It's in writing. I can't do anything about it. I've got to do it. I said, but in all honesty, gentlemen, I need your help. I said, I don't really want to start my career in the US with a very big negative on my books through no fault of my own. I said, I really believe that you should be selling the 500. So how about you give me an order to the same value of 500s as I'm taking back in CD-TVs so that there is no negative there. And if you do that, I will give Sears your own pack. I'll develop your own pack, which is what they did. And so I managed to get out of all of these. I was right across the whole of the US had been stuffed with these bloody machines. And now at the quarter end, I should have been at a general manager meeting in Mediali's office in New York with Jim Dion. But I was on holiday. I got my sons over from the UK and we were on holiday. Anyway, Mediali rang me up. I used to have a boat down at Rehoboth Beach, about an hour and a half from Westchester, and I kept a boat down there, and I used to go down most weekends, and I had my sons down there. And Mediali rang me up. He was fuming. what's all this? Everything, all these trade, taking all this bloody product, blah, blah, blah. And I said, Maddie, what are you asking me for? What do you mean what I'm asking you for? I said, no, I said, ask Jim Dion to hand you the envelope I gave him to give to you, which he did. And of course, inside the envelope was copies of every letter of sale or agreement that Jim Dion had put out there. And I said, this is why I've taken them back. We have no option. You can't expect to trade with any business giving them a letter from the president that you don't honor. And I said, so, but what I have done is I've sold them all 500s. And so we are back trading again. That's as much as I can do. Now, I would have loved to have been on the fly on the wall after he hung up from me. But that's to give you an example of the reasons why the US was never very good. They just weren't commercial. They weren't thinking. Business is all about collaboration. It's about win-win-win. You know, if you're a manufacturer and you've got a distributor and then you've got a retail store, it's got to be win-win for everybody. Otherwise, somebody's going to lose out. And I've always believed that business has got to be, you know, collaboration where everybody benefits from. And if all you do is to stitch somebody up with sale or return that you know they're not going to be able to sell, and then you don't have to even have the guts to tell your boss that you haven't actually sold it, it's there on sale or return. I mean, what that proved to me was that Commodore never had a business plan, and they also never had proper auditing, not external auditing, because they would have known that all of these sales that were recorded for the quarter end, but there's no money in the bank to support it. You should have known that. So it was no wonder Commodore never really knew its own financial position, because people were lying. And the worse than America, the worst one of all was the general manager of Commodore Netherlands, Bernard van Tienen. He's dead now, so, but I would say the same thing whether he was alive or not. He used to brag to us whenever we had a general manager's meeting, and probably once a month. He used to brag to us every quarter. He said when he had not achieved his forecast, and he never did, he would invent invoices and he would send product on a truck, send it away on a journey for 3 or 4 days. So at the end of the quarter, he recorded the sale, and at the beginning of the next quarter, it came back into stock again. Every quarter without fail. Now, just to show how crooked he was, and he was one of the people who joined ESCOM. And he was one of the senior people in ESCOM. So it gives you an idea of the standard and ethics of ESCOM. And they've got crooks working for them. You know, you can't wonder at all the mistakes that they made.
Yeah, and as we all know, ESCOM didn't end well either. So,
well, that was the reason for the new book, which is the Call from Vultures to Vampires. And what I've done is done a lot of research with actually co-authored with Trevor Dickinson, who's already had a lot of research. And what we've done is we cover what happened to all of the assets, the trademarks, the logos, the patents and IPs of all Commodore's stuff and Amiga stuff since ESCOM bought it. And so that story starts from the day in the court when ESCOM won the auction. I was actually there in that courtroom when that happened, and then we trace it through about who got what they developed, what got produced, and so on and so forth. And it's absolutely amazing, the story. In fact, the problem that we had was that we found so much information that hardly anybody knew about. We had to turn this Vultures of Vampires into 2 volumes because there's just so much stuff in there. Volume 1 is already out. That came out a couple of months ago, and that's 380 pages. And volume 2, which we're just finishing off at the moment, it's going to be another 300. It might even be more than 380 pages, which is a bit of a problem. But anyway, the point that what I'm trying to make is that it was sad that somebody like ESCOM, who had their structure was built on people who weren't particularly honest, and that to me is like a real tragedy. And a good example of that was Petro Zachenko. He's been the biggest liar that you can ever imagine, because I've never read his book because his book was only in German, but I've been told that, and I know he always said that he was responsible for the sales of all of the products throughout Europe. And that is an absolute and utter lie. He never sold anything. His job was product logistics. And what that meant was if I forecast in a particular quarter I was going to sell 3,000 Amiga 500s, for example, he had to make sure I had those 3,000 Amigas in my warehouse. That was his job. He didn't sell anything at all, but he kind of carried it off that he did. And he's one of the guys from ESCOM. So you get this feeling there's a bad smell with ESCOM before you even start, you know. Anyway, getting back to the stories I was telling about my career in Commodore, because that's what this first book about. And it tells all those stories that I've just touched on. Commodore, the inside story. And the reason that came about is because, once I got back into our community again, I guess, which was the Amiga 30 event in Amsterdam in 2015, and I realized that for some reason completely unknown to me, I was perceived as some kind of a hero, only because I had done a very good job with Commodore, particularly in the UK, and then I started to tell all these stories, and people said, "Oh, you got to write about this. You got to write about this." And I thought to myself, "Well, I can't write. I'm not an author. I've got no idea. Where do I start?" So anyway, ultimately, I got convinced that I should do it. So I sat down and I wrote my part, my story. And when I'd finished writing my story, I read it back and I thought, I don't like this. This is more a story about David Pleasance than it is about Commodore. But then I thought, well, I can't be anything else because it's all through my ears and my eyes. But I wanted more. So then I contacted lots and lots of other people who were key figures within Commodore. For example, Dave Haney, R.J. Michael, Beth Richards, all of these write a chapter, your own perspective of what Commodore was like on the inside, so that what I'm giving out to the general public is a very complete overview of the inside story. And that's what's happened. And
yeah, that is what I also want to mention, because we only mention UK and Great Britain and USA, but I saw you also have stories from Peter Kittel from Commodore Germany.
yes,
And also from somebody in Mexico and other places. So that's super interesting because it shows the picture from their side of the globe when it comes
Yes.
to Commodore.
Yes, absolutely. And so anyway, that's the whole reason why I wrote that book. But it also seems to me that there are a large number of people in Germany, Germany was second to the UK in actual volume. It was always kind of it was kind of a battle between Germany and UK who sold the most, and I guess that what Meriali did is he played us one off against each other to see who would do the most. It wasn't until I went and had a look at all of the figures when Colin and I did our due diligence because we wanted to buy the whole thing, then I realised that we'd actually outsold Germany for quite a long time, not by an awful lot. But the point I'm trying to make is that, German market was very, very buoyant, and it today is still very buoyant. But there are a lot of people in Germany who naturally you can't read English. You can't read it in an in-depth enough way to get the benefit of something like a book of this caliber, which has all of these interesting stories in. So that's why I've gone to the trouble and had the book translated. It's almost ready now. The issue that we're facing right at this moment is that it appears that it takes about 30% more words in German to replicate what the English was. And that's okay, except that when you've got your wording, which is surrounded a picture and relates to the picture, then you've got a problem. And you know what I'm saying here.
I spent a week with this layout and I couldn't get it right. And oh my God. Yeah, I told you about it. I was so frustrated because I couldn't get it right.
Anyway, we are working on that now. And I mean, it might add 2 or 3 weeks to when we can actually send it off to the printers. But the fact of the matter is that the book is virtually done. I've got a brand new forward in the book, which I just received a couple of days ago, and that's from Marcus Tillman, who is a well-known figure in Germany, and he's done the forward for this book for the German edition. Now, the only drama I've got, and the reason why I wanted to promote this on this channel, is that the minimum run I can do for a hardback book is 500 books. Otherwise, it costs so much money; it's just not worth doing. And I need to get 500 people to say yes, they're going to buy it and to pre-order it from me, which they can do. And at the moment, I've got tickets about 230 orders, which isn't bad. But I've got to make 500. Otherwise, I'll just have to give everybody the money back, which I don't want to do, of course. So really, what I'm saying is that if you are interested in what is a very, very in-depth and complete story, which tells the whole truth about Commodore and why they went bankrupt, it's unbelievable for $1 billion corporations to go bankrupt. But if you really want to know, and English is not your native language, which I know a lot of you it isn't, please consider this, because it's a damn good book. I'm offering it at a reduced price. I mean, my books normally are £35 a book plus post and packing. I'm doing this German version for £26 plus post and packing, and that's on my website, the www.davidpleasance.com. And the postage. Now, I also want to touch on something which is very relevant to this. With volume 1 from Vultures to Vampires, which we shipped out, my son and I shipped out ourselves, we had a massive headache with it, which of course we hadn't been used to. And the reason was that UK is no longer in EU. And so what happened was that we sent off, the majority of my books go into Europe, a lot in the UK, but a lot go into Europe. And what was happening was that as soon as they arrived, the customs were getting hold of the book, and they were saying, we got to claim duty on this. And they really didn't know how to do it, is the honest truth. They kind of didn't know what to do. What they should have done was via the post system in each country. They should have sent a little card that said, we are holding a book, you owe some duty on, contact us to pay the duty, right? They didn't do that. In most instances, they just held the book, and then after a few weeks, they returned the sender. Okay, so a lot of people saying, where's my book, but we've sent it, we have no idea where your book is. And can I tell you that even if we'd done tracking, which we didn't do, and the reason we didn't do tracking is because Royal Mail tell us you might pay for tracking, but they don't give it to you over there. They don't. They say they're going to, but you don't. You're paying for something that you're not going to get. As it happened, quite a lot of the books did have tracking on them, but they don't show you they're held in customs. They don't have a formula for that, if you like. Now get this: what was even worse than that? Not only were the customs people holding the book and then sending it back to me, on many occasions they put a big sticker on the parcel saying "Return to Sender," and they put that sticker right on top of the address label to who the book was being sent to. And when you got it back, we try and remove that sticker saying, "Return to Sender," and it destroyed the label, and then you have no idea what the bloody book was for. Can you imagine?
So bad. Well, I was lucky when mine arrived. I just got a card with it saying, "Please come to the post office and pay your import taxes." So that's what I did. I was lucky it worked, but the problem is if you don't make the announcement that it has to be paid or it has been paid electronically, the postal service is putting €6 handling for paying in front of customs before handing it over to you. So it made it even more expensive for us Germans.
Right. Well, now the good news is I've solved the problem. Right. What I've done is I've got an agreement in principle with a small company based in Germany, And the books are, I get my books printed in Turkey because it's very good quality and it's very good value for money. So the German book translation, and also this will be with volume 2 of Vultures of Empires, is being shipped directly into Germany, and there's no import duty from Turkey to Germany, which is good. So the guys in Germany, they're going to individually wrap and address every book and send it off, so they're from within the EU. So you won't have any of this problem at all, right? Now, I think from memory, I mean, obviously I have to pay for them to do this, but in most instances, the postage cost from Germany is cheaper than it is in the UK. But I think, for example, the EU postage has gone up, I think, £1. But the reason for that is that we're now wrapping, every book is being wrapped with a cardboard outer because they've got people complaining about, I mean, there wasn't that many, but there were some books arrived were damaged. So now every book gets wrapped in a cardboard outer, so you're not going to have it damaged. And because it's being sent from Germany, you won't have to have any of these issues with customs or import duties or taxes or anything, touch wood. So hopefully that's resolved it now. These are things that you have to live and learn. You know, as I said, we had no idea, but it's been an absolute nightmare. I think, touch wood, I think that I've just about replaced every book that went missing or whatever. I think so. I keep putting, you might notice in Facebook, I keep posting things saying, anybody who's still waiting for a book, please contact me, because if you don't contact me, I don't know, you know. But I think we're pretty well on top of that now.
Awesome. So before we end, where can people pre-order your book, your German book?
Yeah, it's my website is www.davidpleasance.com. Very easy to remember, and I'd be thrilled for people to pre-order. And as I said, if for any reason I don't get 500 orders, I really think I will. But if I don't, I'll just refund the money. There's no question about that. I just can't afford to pay for 300 books because the price goes up so much. I can't do it. So it's got to be a minimum of 500. So,
what's the deadline you set for yourself?
Well, because I'm doing it myself, it's not done as the reason I'm not done as a Kickstarter is that I don't need the money because all the work's been done. So it can go on as long as I need it to.
Okay.
But obviously the sooner the better, because people who have paid, I think it's 230 or something like that. So I'm about halfway to what I need. So I mean, I was hoping to have it finalized by the end of this month, because it's going to take, say, another couple of weeks to get the book finally ready for printing, and then it's going to be at least 3 or 4 weeks in print. Because that's how long since COVID and the lockdowns, the printing industry has gone through the roof. Everybody's reading books they weren't doing before, and of course that's put all the prices up as well. I don't blame them. They see an opportunity. Every printer was absolutely full up, and they went to one time there was like a 10 or 11 week turnaround time because they had so much work in. But now I think it's down to about 4 weeks, something like that. Now, the other thing too is that the people who pre-order the book, I am putting their names in the book, in the back of the book, as supporters of the book. So, you know, it's a nice thing that they'll have their name in there, as long as they give me their full name and not a pseudonym. No, pseudonyms are an absolute pain. You got no idea. Somebody says, "Where's my book?" and they give you that pseudonym. You can't find it because you put it on. When you do all your administration, it's all under a person's name, not under their pseudonym. And if they don't tell you their name, you can't find them. Strange, really. Yeah.
Wow. So, well, thanks a lot for sitting with us, David.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, I've enjoyed it, and it's very nice meeting you, Dennis. I hope that we'll connect again. Hope so.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
And thank you to all your listeners who are reading. Please back the German book. It's done specially for you. So, and I do know that you'll be very pleased with the content of the book. It's a very, very good read, and there's lots of people will tell you that it is a good read. So Please
I
comment.
can confirm. I saw the contents of the book.
Mhm.
I can confirm. Yeah.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, thanks again. Stay safe, everybody.
Safe
God
too.
bless. God bless all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You too. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.